Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cardano Live. I have Damon from Charli3 with us here today to tell us more about oracles and Charli3 and how oracles work. Before we get into all that, check out the description down below. In the description down below, we have links to Charli3's Twitter, their YouTube channel, Medium articles, and website where you can learn more about Charli3 there. And please check out that link to their YouTube channel down below where Damon will have new content coming out on Charli3 in the future, and that way you can subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to that channel, hit the bell so you can get the notifications, and while you're down there, do it for Cardano Live as well. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and give us a thumbs up for that like channel. And without further ado, Damon, thank you for coming on Cardano Live today. I very much appreciate it. We are here to talk about Oracle. And how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing pretty good. And yeah, thanks for having me on and giving me the shout out for the YouTube there. We just started it, just started doing podcasts. I actually have another one coming out later today. So lots of live shows today.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure I watch for that and get that retweeted out and help promo that podcast that you have going on. It's only in about 4 hours from now. You got another one coming up. So what we were going to touch on today is, first of all, what are oracles? To some people, they're relatively new. Some people are very familiar with them. So we just want to kind of touch on a very high level view, what an oracle is and what does it do for blockchain systems and DeFi systems. Damon, can you tell us what is an oracle?
Yeah, for sure. I think the people that'll be more familiar with oracles know what Chainlink is for Ethereum, right? It's kind of a bigger name, top 50 coin. And what they do, what oracles do, will make sure that whatever price values you have are accurate for your project. So it keeps your prices correct for buyers and general activity. So things like farming activities and things of the like, staking and stuff absolutely need correct values, because without those, who knows what you're making, who knows what yields to give back. And same thing with DEXs and wallets. And, you all need updated values to understand kind of how your processes are supposed to work and keep it accurate. So nobody's losing money out on anything.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. That's a good high level description. And when we think about it with oracles, we have stuff like CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, Masari. You got these different exchanges out there. Is it problematic that, let's say we have a DeFi app and it only looks at CoinGecko to get the market data? That could be problematic for DeFi, yes?
Yeah, absolutely, because then it's a centralized single point of contact, right? So what oracles will do in that case is we'll take multiple APIs. So an API is just a store of data from a singular source. So CoinGecko will have an API, stock market things will have an API, and we'll take multiple APIs from many different sources, run through node operators, right? They will run a consensus check. They'll all put up a certain value. Generally, those values will be very close to each other, and there'll be an averaged, I guess, value that comes out to have the most accurate thing that then goes to our consumers, the projects that need it. And if there's any crazy outliers from one project that's down or another person that's just being silly and updating the values to a crazy number, it tosses those out and slashes that operator. So then you're not getting that outlier and it's not screwing or fudging up the data. And you're totally right on having a single point of contact. That's a problem because not every API is up 24/7, right? So most of them will only have about a 99% function rate, all time every day. So there's usually a 10 to 15 minute window where that API goes down and that source of data isn't usable. But could you imagine having a DEX that can't have an updated value, for 15 minutes of trading? Like, it just doesn't work. So you need those multiple points to make sure that you have a consistent, constant feed of correct data.
Yeah. And I also noticed places like CoinMarketCap several months ago, they decided, hey, we're going to call something ranked 0, and they were taking random coins and throwing up at the top of the list. And you don't want that kind of data getting pulled into a DEX because it could throw things off. So thank you for that description. I appreciate it. And so the general idea here is, let's say there's a DEX built on Cardano, and then out there in the world is how much is a coin worth? and this oracle sits somewhere in between, or it's kind of like meshed in. How does that work? So how's the oracle getting the data and then relaying it to the DEX?
Sure. So what we have is the DEX will generally they'll put out a call, is what it's called. So or whatever project, right? They'll call us, say we need this data, and then Charlie is already connected through, or the oracle is connected through multiple node operators, which are connected to the APIs we just spoke about, the different sources of data. So those go through the node operators that sift through, they update the values. Then the oracle sits in between the project and the node operators. And then it consolidates and aggregates that value for consensus, or all those values coming from the node operators. It has a consensus, and then that sends it back to the DEX after it's approved as trusted data.
Okay. And, it was interesting before the podcast, we were talking last week, is there some other kind of functionality where Charlie can work with not just Cardano and the APIs out there at the coin market caps and the coin geckos? Is it capable of speaking to other blockchains?
At the moment, no. I mean, because every blockchain is built on its own code base, right? And most of the other chains are very similar. Most of them are Solidity based, something like, Avalanche, Polygon, Ethereum, they're all Solidity, right? So it's easy to transfer between the two. And that's why Chainlink has this agnosticism situation, right? Where they're able to code quickly for the next one, because it's just basically an update. But Haskell for Cardano is very different, right? So we are building exclusively at the moment for Cardano, and we can't really talk to other chains particularly. But what we do today is we still are taking off-chain data in the source of things for synthetics, like stock market data and sports and weather and that kind of stuff that's off-chain and real-world data, and being able to transform it and I guess put it on chain for on-chain consumption, but only right now through the Haskell code. So we aren't built for anything else at the moment, but future.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's perfectly understandable. So Charli3 is built using Haskell and Plutus, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, Haskell is a general programming language that like nobody knows. And then Plutus is what the IOHK and Cardano is built on top of Haskell. So it's kind of their own version of what they're using. But that's what everything is built on for Cardano. And that's why it's really hard right now for projects to build and switch over, is there's a severe lack of Haskell developers and that. So that's why a lot of projects are still launching on Ethereum for now and waiting for a port over, basically, which is for the future.
Yeah, because there was, last I read, there was about 2,800 people enrolled in the Plutus Pioneers program and associated Haskell type training programs. And so I take it you have obviously Plutus developers who are trained on your team, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. So our CTO, Jonas, already had a little bit of Haskell dev experience to begin with. He obviously was doing a lot of research prior to, but since then we've hired on 2 other very experienced Haskell devs from a different company, and they're awesome, but they're not blockchain devs. So we also had to hire blockchain devs, and those guys, all 4 of them plus our CTO, have all gone through the first iteration and second iteration of the Plutus Pioneers program. Just the second version was basically just to make sure that they had everything down pat. And there was a couple of changes here and there. So yeah, they're all trained up on it. They're all good. But I think without the experienced Haskell devs, just the Plutus Pioneers program is not good enough to start a project or have a successful one at the moment. It's still a little bit too, I'd say, pioneering for that situation.
That goes back to the old saying we often hear, we're still early, which is true. Not just as far as, finances go, but as far as the technology itself. We are still very early in the process, and people getting up to speed on these formally verified languages and domain-specific languages that have predictable properties to them, which is also important to have. You need to have some predictable properties as far as on-chain fees and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's very stable. I mean, that's the reason why they went with Haskell. It's extremely stable code base. It's a really great foundation to build from. And it's, I guess, like I'm not a developer, but apparently it's extremely safe because it's so stable and whatnot. It's attack vectors on it are not very successful most of the time. So obviously that's something we want to make sure that our finances are safe and our projects are going to be able to scale properly.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. You know, when I went to Plutus Fest, I didn't understand the micro details, but I did understand the macro. And the best description I heard is for Plutus is you want the language to do exactly what you want it to do and nothing more and nothing less. Because that's where people get into trouble when the languages start to do more and less than what you intended for it to do. So that's a good thing. And it will take people a little bit of a learning curve, but I think in the long run, it's going to pay off. And we did have a few other topics we're going to hit on. I did have a question from Alexander where he said, can I ask you anything? And the answer is yes. By the end of the program, we'll get into people's questions. It needs to be Charli3 related stuff, though. We can't answer general questions about other projects. So, yeah, if you keep them Charli3 related, we can touch on them. There was a question from Alan. I appreciate everybody's questions. And he asked he'd asked right before we touched on it, why would you use this Oracle instead of Chainlink? And I think Damon covered that extremely well. Is there anything else you would want to add? I think it was one of your key points there was.
Yeah, I can definitely reiterate on it for sure. I mean, why would you use this instead of Chainlink? Because Chainlink can't. Chainlink is not built in Haskell code. It cannot function on Cardano at all. That's the simple fact of it. I mean, there's a extreme misconception about the word agnosticism that they use for Chainlink is that people think that it can just be used for anything, but that's just not how coding and blockchain works, right? Everything doesn't work on everything, or else there would be no need for building a separate chain for any reason if everything was exactly the same. So like I said before, most of the other chains are very similar. They're easy to port from one to the other and communicate between each other because it's mostly all Solidity code based, but Cardano is Haskell, and it's the reason why it's not up and live and why it's taken forever to build it. So that's the reason why Chainlink cannot. Will they move over? Maybe, probably, eventually. But at the moment, we're the only ones ready to rock.
That's good. You have first mover advantage. And, you know, I actually caught you by surprise. I apologize for doing that. But we were looking at on September 12th after the hard fork. I was looking at the Cardano scan on the blockchain data, and we saw Merrick had launched a smart contract. He was able to get one out the door. And then shortly thereafter, a Charli3 smart contract launched on September 12th. So you guys got first movers, but you weren't about to advertise it. Unfortunately, I saw that and I was like, hey, what is this? I got excited.
I think it's way better for a community person to find it than for us to push it out. It just means people are looking at it and it gets tossed around more. And that was exciting. For anyone that doesn't know, Rick just mentioned Merrick, and Merrick is lead on Blockfrost, which has been working with Cardano for a very long time. And he's a great guy. But yeah, so we did get that up and running pretty quickly. I'd say right after the hard fork. From what we've been told, we were the first project to actually put up part of our own code on Mainnet. We did not know that. We were just excited to work on it because we were ready. Like, we've been ready for a while, just waiting for Mainnet, and we have a workaround for the Plutus application backend, often called the PAB. So if there's projects saying we're waiting on PAB, that's what it means. It's the thing that allows our projects to talk to each other. That doesn't exist yet. So we've made our own version and managed to get code up and run a singular node just to say, hey, we're here, we can actually do this, and we're ready to start integrating whenever everything else works out together. So that was a very exciting moment for us.
Yeah, so the PAB, that's the Plutus application backend, and that's what allows these different applications, features, and dApps and DEXs to communicate.
Yeah, and start integrating with each other. Yeah, and just like, unfortunately, it just doesn't exist yet. So this mainnet is going a little bit slower than I think most people expected it to be, because when you hear mainnet, you think, oh, everything's going to be great, everything's going to be able to be tradable, and it's going to be fully functional. No, it's still very early. The mainnet opening up is just allowing people to start testing with it, and everything. It's a slow process. So until the PAB is actually functional and up there, nothing can really go further than where it is right now. We can start testing a little bit of our own systems, but we can't start ingraining or integrating with other projects and a lot of our partners that are waiting for it, because there's no way for us to communicate and run like multiple nodes and have these consensus data that we need to know if we have full function. And also there's no way for dexes to run. So then there's no way for us to port over, and then there's no way to trade. So until all of these things happen, nothing really changes.
Yeah, and fortunately over here at Cardano Live, our viewers have a very realistic perspective of the state of Cardano, because that's what we put out here at Cardano Live. And that the first hard fork that we had was to get the smart contracts running on Mainnet, and that the entire tool set was not going to be available until future hard forks and software deployments. Those tool sets will then become available. So thank you for that question, Alan. I appreciate it. And thank you as well, Damon. And then the next question from Michael Day was also one of the ones we talked about before the podcast, and that was sports team data. So, great minds think alike, Michael. Thank you for the question, Michael. And what else can oracles be used for things other than dexes, sporting events, temperatures in the city? What's your take on that, Damon?
Yeah, anything that's numerical data. So, weather updates, sporting events, it can definitely be used. There's APIs out there to take from, and we're just sourcing those. Basically, we're focusing on ones that our partners need. So there's certain partners like, I'll say like Network that want for their open world gaming experience to have a lot of different functions to them. So, games built around gaming events, like real world gaming events, and they want to have those updated within their world for different purposes and gamification. So yeah, we're grabbing those things, but yeah, it can be used. Election results is a little bit dicey because they come in so quickly and it's only on one day, so it's not really worth focusing on that too much. So
yeah, like building an API that talks to an API that's only temporary, that's only going to be sitting there for like a day. And but things like sporting events, who's winning games. The cool thing is, so that Damon and the team at Charli3 have built this Oracle, and it can see APIs, and it doesn't matter what programming language or methods are used on the other end, as long as that application programming interface defines itself, the Oracle can reach out to it. Like, I guess you guys put the definition on the Oracle side, and it can reach out and collect that data, whether it's sports team data, temperature data, or in our case, blockchain price data. What's the price of a coin or a token, right?
Yeah. And stocks is another big one too. So there's a lot of synthetic assets that are going to be coming in from the stock side. So we need to take stock market values and bring them on chain. So basically the whole thing about an Oracle is we're taking off-chain data and reconfiguring it, put it on chain for it to work. Exactly what Rick said. It's just more simple that way. But yeah, certain types of things are a little bit more difficult to get. And that's okay. So with the sports thing, whoever asked that question, it's we are working with a sports organization we can't name at the moment that to manage, I guess, different player stats and data that's collected around the world in order to pay out bonuses based on how well they're doing towards other people. So it's just statistics, but it's being managed through our Oracle updates.
Yeah, and it's good that you're working with one of them. There was a question that popped up from Sebastian Camino along that lines. Are there any big partnerships up your sleeve, not yet announced? Usually people can't announce things yet, as Damon just indicated. There were a few things, maybe the summit coming up or whatever, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, the summit's coming up. Mostly we just have an overview. We got the green light yesterday to talk about our involvement. So like, yay. So it's good. So yeah, we were asked by the IOHK like a long time ago if we wanted to be part of the summit, and we got our stuff together. There's an interview with our CTO Jonas to go over the technicals, and then we have a video presentation that will happen, I think, on some other separate channel where most of the projects are showing video presentations about their systems. And that's all we have. Nothing crazy. We're not able to go to the events and actually be a main speaker, mostly because of, you know, COVID restrictions stuffs, especially in the US and Canada. So I'm in Canada, and it's just like, I don't really want to travel south at the moment. Things are really bad here at the moment. So so yeah, it's exciting there, but you're totally right, Rick, and sorry, Sebastian. But yeah, if there's any big announcements, the reason why they're not announced yet is, well, there's a reason for it. So, but I would say that we are talking to the IOHK. What we said, we can't say that there's going to be any official partnership or anything, because who's to say? And another big one I would say that I really like is World Mobile, and we've been talking for a long time, but they're also obviously very, very busy on the ground in Tanzania there, and we're hoping to get something more formalized with them soon, because they're an awesome project. So that's the biggest one I would really talk about right now.
All right. Thanks for at least giving us the information that we can get up to this point in time. And I'll be at the summit too, so I look forward to seeing the Charli3 folks there and seeing the presentation. And I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised about the information coming out the summit. That is September 25 and 26. And before we go on to the remainder of our podcast here, I just want to remind viewers that are just now dialing in, check out the link to the Charli3 YouTube channel down below. And once you get on that channel, give them some like and subscribes. And once they go over 100 subscribers, they're going to make a custom URL, and I'll replace the one down below with the custom URL once they go over 100 subs. Nice new channel, and they're going to have more content coming out on Charli3 over the coming months. So as that content comes out, hit that bell button. You'll get a notification once that information comes out. All right. So let's see. What else did we have? We were going to touch on. We talked about, was it... we got the sports team data touched on. Oh, the token. Is there a Charli3 token? What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, the Charli3 token was launched in April, end of April, and it's on Ethereum right now. Now, people think that means that we are only for Ethereum. That is not true. Our entire code base is purely Haskell. The only reason we did Ethereum was to do a raise on it because of smart contracts, right? It's really difficult to try and do a raise on Cardano without you can mint a CNT, a Cardano native token, but because there's no smart contracts for being able to manage vesting schedules, it's a big risk. So that's why most projects are minting at the moment on Ethereum, so they can still do a raise and have vesting contracts out to their investors. So that's where we're at right now. You can buy it only on Uniswap. I know gas fees suck on Ethereum. Complaints about that every day. But the reason we haven't expanded to any other exchanges is because we're saving our liquidity to be on the chain that we are building for and our focus is for. So we're waiting until we can get on the DEXs so we can have more liquidity on those DEXs to allow for larger volumes of trading for the community. So anybody that's screaming at us to, oh, get on Cardano native, or why aren't you Cardano native? That's the reason, right? It's we have to wait until there's DEXs, and we want to long-term be more focused on Cardano and give it back to the community on that platform, not Ethereum.
Okay. Yeah, there's been a mix. I think it's a healthy mix, but I'm not a financial expert. But there's people who have launched, teams have launched their tokens on Cardano, native on Cardano only. There are teams that launched starting on ETH, and they have various ways of bridging. They'll either use their local website bridge, or they're going to bridge through an exchange. So I've heard of about 3 different methods of people either launching on Ethereum or on Cardano or both. Some people are launching both tokens on both. Actually, that's 4 different methods.
Yeah,
and some people are launching on. Yeah, World Mobile did both. Yeah. Yep. And I think it's a healthy mix because it helps transfer that value. There's a lot of value on Ethereum, and you don't want it. You want it to be a graceful transfer. You don't want it to be like hard stop on Ethereum and full bore on Cardano. So I think a graceful transfer of value is better than a hostile takeover.
I mean, our liquidity will still exist on Ethereum. Like the stuff that's there right now, it's staying. So we want to have that bridge over because we want to have that availability for people to move their funds over on different platforms. You know, I think killing that off and only being exclusive to one is when we already have the Ethereum would be a little bit silly to do. It would close off a lot of doors for us and different community members that are trading on both platforms. So we also need to keep it open for our investors because all their contracts are on Ethereum. So when they get to take out their money or their tokens, and they want to switch it over, that bridge has to still be there, or else there's no way for them to have Cardano native Charli3 tokens.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes sense as well. So what I'll do is I'll touch on another question here from Monty. If you can't answer that, that's fine. Some questions, we can't answer. So from Monty asks, why Charli3 instead of Wolfram? Curious, but my take is I don't think it's this or one or the other. It's not. Yeah, they're different. So it's a different approach. Wolfram it's a source of massive amounts of data. But Charli is looking at dynamic data.
Mm-hmm.
What's the differences?
So Wolfram, as you said, it's already a store. So it's a centralized store of data. It's all coming from one source. I also don't believe that they're able to function on Cardano yet. I mean, they're on the ecosystem thing, same with Ergo, but we've been, as far as we know, that there's no new developments on that. But I mean, I always want to know. So if other people have information on that, let me know. But they're totally different, where we're a completely decentralized situation where, like I said, we're gaining from multiple node operators from different APIs all over the place, and aggregating and having that data come to consensus before giving it to our consumers. Whereas Wolfram is just a store of data that will be bringing their large store to the chain and then letting people access that, but it's all from a centralized point. Would I love to see them come over? Absolutely. They have so much, they have so much data over many, many, many years of collecting. Like, that would be amazing for projects to be able to access. It would kind of be akin to what API 3 is doing right now, another Oracle type of service, right? That is doing first party oracles, which just allows people to, with their projects, access APIs directly instead of no middleman, right? But there's benefits to that and takeaway. So I think it's not, like Rick said, it's not an instead of, it's in addition to, right? Because we're all filling different roles within the same niche, and the ecosystem needs that, right? We need people to fill in different ways. I mean, if it was only one type of project per chain, you'd have like 6 projects. You'd have one gaming project, you'd have one NFT project, you'd have one Oracle, one DEX, and one wallet. That's it. Wouldn't be very diversified.
Yeah, man, I love the way you put it, because NFTs are a great example. NFTs on Cardano launched about 5 or 6 months ago. I think about 6 months ago. NFTs launched along with native assets on Cardano. Mm-hmm. And now there are so many NFT projects, and not just a large number of NFT projects, but also NFT marketplaces.
Yeah.
So I've seen at least 3 different NFT marketplaces, as I recall, and probably 50 different NFT projects. And the same thing will happen with things like oracles. And some of them are going to be taking the advance. Like, you guys have first mover advantage, at least as far as you've actually deployed an oracle on Cardano.
Yeah.
And then there's teams like Chainlink, who have been around for a long time, who are very savvy on oracles on Ethereum, and they may come to Cardano. And if you're going to see other things spin up. And I think I don't know if Blockfrost is doing something like that, but they have a pretty
on-chain APIs. Yeah, so they have on-chain APIs, which is different. We're taking off-chain APIs, so it's a little bit different. Yeah, but they're great. They're super smart dudes.
Yeah. They're really making some waves too. Cool to have some Blockfrost folks come on here as well. I got to reach out to them. I got to reach out to Blockfrost.
If you can get Merrick, that would be amazing. I can hardly even talk to the guy.
God, he must be busy. He's
writing very code. Busy. Yeah.
As everybody is writing code. All right. Yeah. So, is there anything else we wanted to touch on today? I'll give you the last words here. If any viewers have any questions, hopefully I touched on all of them, but we're going to be wrapping up shortly. Damon, I'll give you the last words here. Anything else you can tell us about Charli? What you got coming up in the future, or anything for the viewers?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we have the Cardano Summit this weekend, and that's very exciting. We put together what we thought is a very good video outlining exactly what we have. I have some more tech updates coming quickly about, we've been running security checks on our thing. We have some audits coming up through the IOHK. So that's very exciting as well. It's kind of a pilot program they're doing. So we're doing some audits through them. So that'll validate different things. I think further on, just for fun, we've got some NFT projects that I'm going to be announcing, NFT collections rather, one made by myself and one made by another designer for the summit. So that's more or less just a community engagement type thing, and those are pretty fun. And then into October, we're looking to hopefully figure out things with the DEX and be able to start switching our token over through a bridge built by CardStarter. So that's exciting. Apparently it's more or less ready to rock, just waiting for some final touches, and then we can finally start moving our stuff over. So that's where we're at. And yeah, just scaling up the team, right? We're bringing on more developers, doing more testing, more integrations with new partners. So it's just everything's starting to build in the right direction, and that's what we're excited for.
Okay. All right. Good to hear the CardStarter bridge. So we'll get more information in the future once that bridge is up so that people can convert or transfer as needed from the Ethereum chain to the Cardano chain.
Right.
Thanks for pointing that out. There was one last persistent question, last one we're going to get for today, from Vincent. And thank you, Vincent. He asks, are oracles better on the EUTXO model than the account model? And I believe functionally they're the same.
Yeah, functionally they're more or less the same. I think the EUTXO model is just more difficult to manage, but technically should be safer as far as how the data is coming to, aggregated and then coming to consensus through those models. Again, I'm not a tech person. I know very basic macro overviews. So you're going to have to come into our chat. I can ask our CTO Jonas, and I can get you a better direct question about that. But as Rick said, it's more or less the same function, just a little bit safer for against attack vectors and stuff to use the EUTXO. And you can also, I think, do more updates and more transfers per second than other models from the account model.
Okay. All right, good. And, that brings up one last thing I'd touch on, and we'll wrap it up. And that is for EUTXO and the account model, if you want to store data on chain, which is what oracles will do, it'll read some data, capture it, store it on chain. That costs money. There's a transaction cost to doing that, because that, if you remember videos from Charles from 2-3 years ago, he would explain there's a cost for storing data on chain. Not only does it prevent attacks, but it also rewards the people who are willing to store the data, collect the data, process the data, right? There's a cost to processing the data as well. So that's what I think the EUTXO and the accounting models have in common, is the cost of storing that data on chain. And Charli3 and oracles on EUTXO are no different. There's going to be a cost to updating state and storing data on chain. And Mike, did I get that right in general? I think we talked about that.
You're right. Yeah, there is still a cost, but the inherent nature of what Cardano is means the cost will be lower, or else we wouldn't be moving. There would be no reason for this. But yeah, the cost will be lower. But yeah, there is still a cost. We're still a business. I mean, people have to purchase what our services, no different than anything else. I mean, Cardano, not Cardano, but the cryptocurrency coins in general are businesses, right? We're all software tech businesses other than meme coins. And there's a cost to anything that we're doing. And part of that is because it does cost to have on chain. I mean, our current node that's running right now, just updating the price of ADA to USD is it costs on every update. So it's all there. It does, but I think it should be cheaper and faster and more secure. And that's the reason for Haskell.
That's fantastic. And I think that's a great note to wrap it up on. What do you say?
Yeah, sure. Let's take off.
All right. We're going to blow this joint. It's a nice Wednesday. Y'all have a great Wednesday afternoon. I'm going to bow out here before we go. Make sure you check out the links down below. Like and subscribe on Cardano Live here. Go like and subscribe over there on the Charli3 YouTube channel. And remember, Charli3 going for #1. Cardano's going for #1. Cardano Summit this weekend. Make sure you check that out. Thank you, Damon. Hope to see you back here in the next couple of months.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Take care.